Hi, everybody. Welcome to my live chat for this week. This is Tamara Mendelson, and our group is This Way Forward. And this week we are talking about parenting. One of our group members sent me a note a few weeks ago and told me that they grew up in a household where the parenting wasn't terrific, and that some of the things that went on with their interactions with their parents were abusive and were difficult. And they found that sometimes, because they're overworked and exhausted and raising children is difficult, they fell back into those parental patterns that they grew up with that they in no way wanted to emulate or to repeat. So the question was, what are the parameters? What are the bare bones skeleton things that people need to remember when parenting? First of all, parenting is the hardest job in the world because none of us get any training, and it's a job that changes constantly. I mean, when you think about it, you bring that little precious being home from the hospital and they are completely dependent on you and for everything. And as they grow up, part of their job is to become independent, which mostly means to push against you, literally push against you for their entire lives. And then they leave the nest. And I laugh with my friends because a lot of us have children who have moved out in the last few years, and they have the empty nest syndrome. And it's really an amazing thing to age out of a job that you finally are good at. Anyway, so that's another story. But this week's blog, some of the things that I talked about were, if your parents weren't particularly good role models, or the people who raised you, grandparents, uncles, aunts, weren't really their goals and ideas and the way that they interacted aren't really the way that you want to interact with your children, then you need to find role models in your own life, whether they be other parents or teachers or clergymen or women, and use those people as your guide and emulate their behavior, and watch other parents. And also give yourself a break. Nobody wants to yell at their children. Nobody wants to be a bad parent or a bad person. And occasionally we all have moments that we're not particularly proud of. But one of the things that we have to remember is that we as parents are in the role of the person with all the power. Unless, of course, you let your 3-year-old dictate, which is a whole different conversation. But we're the ones with the power. And children need schedules. And children need us not to be their friends. They need someone who is going to tell them the truth and to be an advocate for them and be on their side and try to help them navigate our world. And our world is not a very nice place right now. So it's something that our children definitely need help with and explanations for. And also when someone who is in an authority position treats your child in a way that is not acceptable, we need to speak up for them. And we do need to be their advocates. And we do need to be on their team, on their side. I remember a little kid, one of my children was having an issue with at school. The kid was maybe 7 or 8 and used language that my child had never heard before. And my child came home and said, "Mom, you can't believe so-and-so says this, 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 and this." Okay, they're words that you would be shocked if they came out of a little one's mouth. So I, of course, was like, "Oh, I'm sure it's a misunderstanding," whatever, called the parents. And let us just say that after talking to the parents, I pretty much knew where this child's language and behavior came from. So then it was to try to teach my child coping mechanisms and staying out of the airspace of this person. And this was not someone that he could, that they could negotiate with, or that they could really have an impact in a positive way. So when someone is that negative, you need to distance yourself, and not, you can't, I guess the lesson was that not everybody can be your friend. Another choice, which comes right along with that, is being calm. Children are little unmet needs, and they can be incredibly dramatic and incredibly effervescent and energetic. And all those things are great, but if it's a situation where they are very anxious or very upset or very all over the place, part of your job as a parent is to be the calm, rational one. And I think that I think in most cases, we can be the calm ones. And if you yourself cannot be calm, then I think it's perfectly acceptable to have a timeout as a parent. Give yourself a timeout. Your kids will think it's funny, but after a few minutes, you can come back and you can deal with whatever the situation is in a much calmer, happier, more rational way. One of the other things that I think is lacking in our world right now is kindness. I think that people's reactions right now are I think people are under stress, and I think a lot of people forget that you need to remember that thing your mother used to say, or your father, or someone, count to 10 before you lose your temper or get angry. I don't think people count to even 1 anymore. So I think if we can be a little more empathetic and maybe put ourselves in other people's shoes, we can teach our children that kindness it should be second nature, and to try to understand why someone behaves the way they do. And also, in the same time, how to not engage in some of those conversations with people, and that there are bullies in the world. And there are bullies that we see and hear every day. And just because their behavior is an adult behaving badly, doesn't mean we want to emulate, or we want our children to emulate that behavior. So again, we have to model kindness. Another one that I'm actually surprised is an issue still is hitting children. I grew up with a lot of people whose parents were either first generation or new immigrants to America, and some of them were European and from other places. And corporal punishment at that time was perfectly acceptable. A teacher could hit a child. A parent could hit a child. When you use your size and your power to actually strike a child, you've lost whatever interaction that is. And it's the same way with grown-ups. Unless your life is in danger and you need to defend yourself, there's no reason to, you can hear other people's children outside screaming. There's no reason to use physical violence. And it's very hard to teach your children not to hit their sibling if you hit them because they hit their sibling. Because eventually they will figure out that that doesn't really make sense, that you're saying one thing and you're doing another. And the last one that I'll leave you with, and for a lot of us it's hard, if there are things that we didn't maybe get to accomplish in our lives, that people live through their children, but we have to realize that our children are individuals, and that we need to let them be who they are and not who we want them to be, and not who we need them to be for our own self-esteem. Because they are separate beings, and what they need from us is love and support and guidance And if you feel like you're having issues as a parent, and you have a specific question, feel free to drop us a line here in the group or reach out to me personally, either here in our group or on the website, TamaraMendelson.com. And I would be happy to talk to you and happy to help you work through the things that are bothering you. So be kind to yourself, have a good week, take care of those little beings that you are entrusted, they are entrusted in your care, and I'll see you next week. And be sure and put your questions out there, and I will address some of them next week. Thanks a lot.